Hi everybody, welcome back to Dune Awakening, and in this video I want to talk about private servers. How much do they cost? What can you do with a private server? Kind of why would you want to have one? And go into a little bit of detail about how the server system works for Dune Awakening. Not just the private system, but the public system as well, because it can be a little bit confusing. In the description below this video, I'll put links to all of the resources I'm using. Also, please bear in mind that Funcom, the devs and publishers behind Dune Awakening, were very kind to send me a key for the game, and also Nitrado very kindly set me up with a private server to play around with as well. Okay, so Dune Awakening is a massive online multiplayer game. So it's always online, and it's an open world survival adventure story based game where you can do whatever you want in the order that you want to do it, and it has PvE areas and PvP areas, and it's quite unique the way that they've organized the servers. So the way that it kind of works is that when you start the game, everybody starts in the Haga Basin, and this goes for private servers and when you're playing the game normally as well. So you start in this place called the Haga Basin. Now, it sounds small, being a basin, but it's not. It's absolutely huge. So this is the kind of the sandbox, to use a pun, where we all start off. And this is where you'll work your way through the story, quest lines. You do side quests, you do main quests, you gather resources. It's mostly PvE with selected PvP areas. Now that is something we can change in our private server, but for now just think about it. So we load into here. Now also on the in the game there's these common areas where people can get together, so social hubs they call them. So you have like Arakeen and Harko Village, and you've got these other areas that will be introduced as well. Now, these other areas, the Arakeen and Haga Village, for example, these are PvE, well, they're community areas. So when you go there, you can't fight or anything, but you go there to trade, you go there to join guilds, you go there to do some of the kind of the mid to end game stuff when you're beyond just surviving, when you're joining a guild and you're helping that way. And then also you have the deep desert. So the deep desert is an area that is bigger than Haga Basin, so it's absolutely massive, and it's PvP there. So I think friendly fire's off as well, so even if you go in there with friends you can accidentally shoot each other. And there's no real map of the deep desert because every week it's going to change, so it's going to be wiped. But on that map there'll be points of interest, so you'll have crashed ships, you'll have botanical testing stations and all things like that, but every week they will change location. It's like a massive storm has come through and kind of change the map, so you won't know where you're going. Maybe a way that you can think about the deep desert is, if you've played the Division, it's like the dark zone in the Division, where you'd spend your time in New York gathering all your resources and killing NPCs and leveling up, and then when you wanted some serious PvP action, you go into the deep desert. Now there can be PvP stuff happening in the Haga Basin, and generally where that happens is, let's bring up a picture, when these ships crash. So the ship will come down, and that will then become a PvP area. When you enter a PvP area, the game tells you you're entering a PvP area or exiting a PvP area. But everywhere else, you're safe to wander around, interact with other players, and build stuff, gather resources, and make your way through the story. You don't have to do any PvP stuff at all as you're working your way through the story. Now the way that this relates to the actual physical servers themselves is, if you fire up the game and you go to the browser, if we go to the official section, you'll see all these names here. Now these are all what we would call a world. And a world is a collection of servers. So if we click on this first one here, Chapter House here, we have all these server names, and they've got names from the books and the films. And what these are, each one of these servers is a Haga Basin, that the players who choose that server, that will be their home Haga Basin. Okay? And then when people leave the Haga Basin by going to a trading post and talking to an ornithopter pilot, or flying the ornithopters or the helicopters, or flying to the edge of the map with an ornithopter, and they're going into the overland map and flying to the deep desert or flying to Arakeen, that's then they'll go into the social hub, where they can then meet and interact people from the other Haga Basins that are included within this one world. So you can visit these other worlds if they're public, like these being a public service as these are. You can visit these other Haga Basins, but you won't be able to build there. You'll be able to interact and level up and do things, but you won't be able to build. You'll only be able to build in the kind of the home Haga Basin that you started off with. So that's quite important to do. So that's kind of public servers. Now on a private server, it's very similar, but this is the world that I'm in, Nitrado EU West 39. So if we open this up, there's my one, Scale Speeders Dune private server. So we've got all of these Haga Basins that are owned by different people, but as you can see, they've got padlocks on them. So what that means is that only the people who have got the password can get access to my private server. So, you and a group of friends can get together, or a Discord group or a Facebook group, and say, actually, we don't want other people coming on our server. It's not like they can really disrupt you, other people, because PvP is only in certain parts of the map, but you just want to have it to yourself. And so these are all Haga Basins. And then when we then decide to travel to Arakeen or the deep desert, this is where we would then meet these other people from these other Haga Basins, because each world, if you like, has all these different Haga Basins, and then it has the communal other areas. So let's go back to this. So if you can imagine, here we go. So on a community server or a private server world, it'll have like all these Haga Basins, so all of these, so there'll be that one, there'll be that one, there'll be that one, and you can visit them if people give you the passwords to get in. So there'll be loads and loads of these, and then when you leave your Haga Basin by visiting a trader and paying an ornithopter pilot or flying to the edge of the map, I think it's these red areas where you fly, I could be wrong, but it's to the edge of the map, that then takes you into the overland work map, which is like this, where you look down and you fly along, and then you can end up not there, and then you can end up going to these other places where, like Arakeen or Harko Village or the Deep Desert, where you'll meet up the people from the other servers in your world. Now you'll stay in that world probably for all the time you're playing Dune Awakening. You can visit other worlds, but you'll be starting again from scratch with your character. Progression doesn't kind of move over. And at the moment, you can't move your Haga Basin to a different world. Say your mates had set up a Haga Basin on a different world. You can't move that open. That is something that's coming, though. So we're going to have to kind of watch that space. So the reason why you would want to have your own Haga Basin, in other words, your own private server, is so you can just restrict access and customize a few little things. But at the moment, it's really about restricting access. So it's just for you and your friends to come in and build and generally have a good time, interact with each other, do missions together, all that sort of stuff. And then come out of that and go to the community areas together as well. Okay, now again, I'll put links in the description below this video. There's a great article here from the Dune Awakening devs that kind of explains all of this in a bit more detail. So let's go and have a look at the servers. Now, obviously, Nitrado, I'm a Nitrado partner, so I'm going to talk about Nitrado. As you can see, they're not cheap, these servers, but do bear in mind the number of slots you're getting. The minimum number of slots is 24, which is a lot. Okay, so if you've got a lot of friends who are playing Dune Awakening and you want to have your own server, you could split the cost, couldn't you? You could give the money to one person, or you could contribute to one person. To one person, take out the server and then do that, and do it for a month, or do it for how long. Or if it's a Discord community, that would be something that would be very cool. I would say if you're looking at this though and saying that seems really expensive just to play Dune Awakening solo, I will really stress this. You don't need to have a private server if you just want to play solo, because the chances of running into other players in the Haga Basin is quite low anyway, because it's so big on a public server. And also the PvP areas, such as the crash sites, you can choose not to interact with them. You can stay away and just do PvE all the way through. So don't think you definitely have to buy a community server. However, if you do decide to do one, These are the options we're kind of looking at. And the more people you have, the cheaper it gets per person, if you like to have it there. Now, I've been kind enough to be given a 24-slot server. So what can we do with our server? Well, the most important thing is we can set a password for it, so we can just restrict it to ourselves and the people that we want to come onto it. And then at the moment, these are the controls we have. Now, if you're used to having your own server and as an admin, there's not much control here, but the reason for this is because of the shared aspects of the game. The fact that because we're sharing a world with other servers, it's not like you could have say an XP multiplier on your server where you could make it easier to get XP or harder to get XP, or you could even do something where, say, sandstorms were incredibly lethal very, very quickly and you didn't get any warning of them. Or you could have custom objects that you could spawn in. You can't do that at the moment simply because we share the world with other servers, so it would imbalance the world. So that's why this is the case. So the things that we can do at the moment on our Haga Basin, so our little instance of this, is we can turn off sandstorms. And that's very, very useful, because it means that if you, for example, crafted or found a vehicle and you've left it outside your base and it can't be protected, it will get destroyed pretty quickly normally, but if you turn off sandstorms, it will degrade, but not as quickly. Enable security zones. So security zones are enabled by default, but let's say you wanted to have like a hardcore server where actually you could have PvP everywhere. So it might be you and your mates decide we want PvP everywhere, or it could be something like you have a PvP weekend where you say, okay, so throughout the week we're just going to build and we're going to play together and we're going to have fun. But, on a Saturday night, between 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock, we turn off the security zone so you can do what you like. You can go around and raid people's bases and shoot people and do all that sort of fun stuff. And then you could disable taxation. And this just means that, again, things don't degrade as fast as they normally would do. Again, this could be really good if you don't actually get on the game very often. Because the problem with this sort of game that's always online, where you have a persistent world, if you leave it, your base in the background is running through its fuel. You go away on holiday for a couple of weeks, and then you come back, your base is basically going to have decayed. So, that's why that is good to do that way. So that's the reasons why you would want to have a private community server at the moment, to protect it from other people, so you and your friends can come together and customize a few things. I would expect to see more customization coming along. We may even in the future sometime get into a situation where you can have your own world, but we'll have to see. That's a long way off, and don't rent a community server thinking that that's going to be anytime soon. So there we go, Dune Awakening. Hopefully that's given you a little bit of a clue about how the server system works, how the world system works, how the Haga Basin system works, and kind of will guide you to the idea of renting a server for you and your friends, and enjoying this amazing game in the privacy of your own community server. Anyway, that's enough for me. What do you think? If you've got any questions, let me know in the comment section down below, because I've got hundreds of questions that I'm slowly starting to answer myself, and the more you guys and girls tell me your questions, the more video tutorials I can do, and so we can tell the whole community. Anyway, that's enough from me. Hopefully you found this useful. If you have, hit like, and if you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. See you again soon.